Hey everybody, what is going on? George the Italiano here, along with Mr. OG himself for our another episode of A Citrus Corner, which we haven't done in a very long time. But yeah, so we're going to talk about some closures for enhancements, refurbishments, and even replacements. And also going to talk about some news that kind of came out today involving the new Little Mermaid show over at Disney's Hollywood Studios. What that could possibly mean? Let's get into it on Citrus Corner, part of Orange Grove 55.
55.
Welcome back, folks, to another Citrus Corner. As I said, I'm George, the Italiano, and with me is my bro, my partner, you know, surfing the web as we usually do it, Mr. OG himself. How you doing today, bro?
Very, very good. Italiano. It's going to be great. We have a lot of cool little stories, but these little stories have pretty big ramifications or potentially big ramifications. So I'm interested to dive into it.
Yes, absolutely. And let's just dive right into it, shall we?
Yeah.
I kind of figured let's start with the closures, and then we can work our way up to a little bit of the bigger, juicier story.
Absolutely.
So starting off, coming from the one, the only, the GOAT himself, Mr. Scott Gustin, he says the last day for Triceratops Spin, Fossil Fun Games, and Chester and Hester's Dinosaur Treasures, at Animal Kingdom is January 12th of 2025. Tropical America's construction walls will go up January 13th, and Dinosaur the Boneyard, Restaurantosaurus, Dino Bite Snacks, and Trilobites stay open for now, which will eventually be replaced with the section for Indiana Jones. So that tells us that the Chester and Hester's Dinorama area is going up first, which means we will more so probably get Encanto first, or we may get both Indy and Encanto at the same time, being that the building structure is already there from
Right.
Dinosaur, and they just have to just kind of reskin everything and put up another facade. But I'm very excited to see that we're actually now starting to get dates of when sections are being closed off, and the fact that construction walls are going up a day later is significant process. But of course, and also too, I forgot that we're also getting the that IP Animal Carousel as well. But again, all around, very excited. OG, what's your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, no, it's great. They're really moving fast, right? It's closing on the 12th. The walls go up on the 13th. Love to see it, right? There's no time wasted. So it looks like they're working, like you were saying, this is more of the carousel in like the Encanto area, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
So it makes sense that this would close first. If they're doing these phased closures, like you were saying, George, like the Indiana Jones thing, the bare bones, so to speak, no pun intended, bones, the bare bones is already there for that ride. Like it's basically a kind of a window dressing for the most part for that, to turn that into Indiana Jones. So it's not going to take as much time and resources to do that. It makes sense to close this now and earlier because this will take more time. They got to build that Encanto ride from the ground up. They got to build a carousel from the ground up. So this is what's going to take a long time. So it makes a lot of sense. I'm really happy to see it. This is my favorite park at Walt Disney World. Now, Epcot was a close number 2. I mean, it was close, but Animal Kingdom, though, I think was my number 1. And this area just didn't feel like it matched the rest of the park. It felt very, for me personally, like in terms of tone and vibe, it felt very disconnected and it looked very cheap. This reminds me a lot of this kind of stuff that, Michael Eisner kind of put into like DCA in 2001. And it was all kind of the same era, really. It was all just a few years off of each other. But yeah, it's great news. This will enhance the park a whole lot to get rid of this stuff. And it's definitely a net gain for Animal Kingdom. Now, I will say this, though. Look, I've heard a lot of Animal Kingdom like fanboys and like, diehard fans. I think they do have a good point though, in terms of this area is very cheap looking and it is very ugly. But from what I understand, the backstory with the Hector, was it Hector? Chester.
Chester and Hester's.
Yeah, Chester and Hester. The backstory is actually pretty cool, right? So I'll give this area that. If I'm going to give it any credit, I'll give it that.
Yeah, I agree with you. There is a very interesting storyline to why Chester and Hester's Dinorama was placed kind of like in that parking lot, so to speak, kind of like that fanfare. But visually, optic wise, yes, it is god awful ugly to look at, to say the least. And I'm so glad that with Tropical Americas, what Disney is giving us, it'll blend brilliantly with the rest of Animal Kingdom, because it's an extra kind of portal, if you will, to another section of the world that involves nature and animals in an organic fashion, but also tying it into kind of like a mythological standpoint with Indiana Jones and a fantasy fictional IP setting with Encanto. So I love how they can kind of blend that all in, but yet still give us that natural organic feeling that is Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, and that's one thing a lot of people seem to forget. They see the name Disney's Animal Kingdom and they think, well, everything has to be just completely like super focused on the animals, right? And I understand that. Like, I get it. It's an animal park, 100%. But the park isn't just animals, though. The park focuses a lot on the culture of the various countries in which you see these animals, residing in, right? So it's not just Africa. There's elements of African culture. It's not just Asia. There's elements of Asian culture weaved into this park. And it's not just weaved in, really. It's really like a big part of the fabric of Animal Kingdom, right? So this new area, this Tropical Americas, it's in the same vein and same great tradition that the rest of the park is in, where it's, yes, there's animals. There will be animals 100%, but it's also a lot of culture, which I absolutely love. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Now, Damaro did mention, and correct me if I'm wrong, that at D23 they were depicting an opening date sometime in 2027 for Tropical Americas. Am I correct?
I thought so. Don't quote me on that, but I believe so. Yes.
So being like, if that is true, and I think that's what he said, he didn't give like a specific time frame in 2027, but I thought he mentioned like an opening time frame in the year of 2027. That it does seem right, because I mean, if they're starting the first half of it in the beginning of 2025, and I believe that he said by fall of 2025 is when the other half goes down, because they want to give people enough time
say goodbye
to say goodbye before Dinosaur goes extinct, no pun intended.
Yeah. I gotta say, Dinosaur is cool. It's a cool ride. It's cool. It's kind of fun to kind of have that contrast, that difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've experienced Indiana Jones Adventure a bajillion times here in California. It was kind of cool to experience Dinosaur, something totally different, a different take on that ride system. But I tell you, dude, God, it's a downgrade. Let's be honest.
I will say, for people who have experienced Indiana Jones first before Dinosaur, would definitely get that same feeling that you have gotten. I think for people who have experienced Dinosaur first, like I have, it's like, okay, this is cool. But then when you go on Indiana Jones Adventure, like, whoa, what the hell was I missing? Like,
yeah, and it goes to show you, a lot of fans get like so obsessed about ride systems. Oh, you can't have two ride systems in the same park. We just made a video with Hey Bricky about how fans are so boxed in with these like arbitrary rules. You know what I'm saying? But really, you can have the same ride system, right? And the way you theme it, the story you tell, the music you utilize can change the entire vibe of the attraction. You literally have the same ride system between Pirates of the Caribbean and Small World. Same ride system. It's a boat flume ride.
Mm-hmm.
But how different are those attractions? You know what I'm saying? Just from changing the set pieces and the music and the lighting, and it's a completely different experience. So it's like, look at the difference between Dinosaur and Indiana Jones. Same ride system, but completely different energy, you know?
Absolutely. Definitely. Now let's hop over to Magic Kingdom
Okay.
for another ride that's going to go down for a long length period of time, and that is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Yeehaw.
And again, coming from Mr. Scott Gustin. Now, this is actually going to occur before Chester and Hester's goes down. This is a little bit earlier on in the year. But anyway, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Magic Kingdom Park will close for an extended refurbishment on January 6, 2025. The last day to ride before it closes is January 5th. The ride is planned to reopen in 2026 with new enhancements, no other details provided. Now, I'm very excited about this for multiple reasons. One, I'm so glad that Big Thunder at Magic Kingdom is getting some TLC. Disneyland's version got these enhancements way ahead before Magic Kingdom's, and I've noticed there's a lot of I don't want to say deterioration, but I mean, you could definitely see, because this ride has been operating like day in, day out. The track definitely needs an upgrade. Hopefully we get those enhanced kind of like explosives, kind of things like that,
Right.
which is really cool. And that also solidifies the fact that Big Thunder is staying. They're not going to put all this money into a ride that they wouldn't be keeping. So a lot of people, they think, okay, because Big Thunder isn't an IP, they're expanding beyond it, could they eventually take it out, but it's safe to say Big Thunder is here to stay for a long while. But also too, this is the starting point that they're working on Big Thunder to then spearhead the projects for Cars and Villains that would eventually go around it or behind it, utilizing the space of Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America, and even some of the expansion pads beyond that. But OG, your overall thoughts for the refurbishment of Big Thunder, what it means for future expansion? What would say you, bro?
Yeah, I think they're just trying to clean this up, trying to clean up the Big Thunder, trying to get it looking its best, and really, like, just plussing it, as they say, right? But in the lead up to all this new stuff that's going to basically butt up against it, Villains Land and this new Cars area. Big Thunder, from what I understand, if memory serves me correct, this is pretty close to this new area, right? This new expansion pad.
Yes,
with villains and all that, right? So yeah, they want to plus it. They want to do it now before the new stuff opens, so that that whole area is open when Villains Land's open and when they got Cars Land open. It's all open together. It makes a lot of sense. In terms of Big Thunder, I actually unfortunately did not get to ride that when I was down there for Walt Disney World. My one and only trip. I didn't go on it. We're planning on another Walt Disney World trip, not too far in the future. So I definitely want to do more Magic Kingdom stuff the next time I'm at Walt Disney World. And this is definitely, if we'll see if it works out, like timeline wise. But from what I've heard, it is a lesser version of the one at Disneyland. So it's cool that they're going to add, I'm sure, probably like you were saying, George, the explosion effects. You might even get some new effects that we don't even have at Disneyland. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty cool. So yeah, good news all around. I don't know how anyone can even complain about this. I mean, it's a very positive story. It's good to see. It's a classic Disney parks staple, and any TLC you can get is good in my book. From what I heard, though, you haven't been to Paris, right?
No.
I heard their Big Thunder is the GOAT. Like, see, the GOAT. I'm full on. No, but from what I understand, their Big Thunder is amazing. Have you heard that as well?
Theirs is actually on an island.
Yeah.
That I think you board like on land, and then it kind of takes you like underground in through a tunnel, and then you end up on the island, like on the ride itself.
See, that's sick, dude. That's really sick. I've heard amazing things about the one in Paris, but we do want to travel international, so maybe one day we'll go to Paris. We'll see.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
But I do also agree with you. I think this is smart on Disney's behalf to start Big Thunder first before they even start the groundwork on Cars and Villains, because why go through all that hassle, and you're going to have all construction walls up and what have you? You're going to leave Big Thunder, And then once you open all this stuff up, oh, more walls are going to go up because we're going to do a lengthy refurbishment on Big Thunder. Might as well do it now while we start it, with the other projects. So, yeah, it's like, and then that whole entire Frontierland basically gets reimagined. I mean, they already reimagined Country Bear Jamboree, despite of what how they feel about it compared to the original. It's, they refurbished it. They upgraded it. Big Thunder's getting an upgrade. We're getting cars and villains. So all around, we may get a little Splash Mountain, obviously, with Tiana's Bayou. We may get a little Bayou area, but based off of what Damara was saying at the expo, he kind of incorporated Tiana's Bayou Adventure into the new frontier.
They reimagined the meaning of Frontierland. So there's no, in my opinion, I don't think they're going to do New Orleans over there anymore.
Yeah, no. After he said that, it kind of gave off that notion that it was like, it's basically just going to stay the way it is. And I forgot, we had a listener that said, everyone take a drink every time George says the term notion. So I just used it again. I think it was Ryan Turner, I believe.
I think so. So if you got a drink near you, go ahead and drink it. He said notion.
Yep.
He said notion. One of these days we got to do a live show, and just like we did with our New Year's Eve show was so much fun, dude.
Oh, that was great.
Where we were doing like the trivia stuff, and then we'd have to take a drink every time we got something wrong.
Yeah,
dude, I don't drink anymore. I've been, what do you say, sober, I guess. I mean, for like five months now. So I don't drink anymore. But back then, like last year, I drank. Like I had a tolerance, but man, for whatever reason, the soju that I was rocking and the frequency that I had to do it, it messed me up. I almost
you bounced back quicker than Rocky Balboa, man.
Yeah, I was really drunk though. I was like this close to messaging you like, "Hey man, you got to take over." But I did snap out of it fairly quick. Like,
yeah,
But I don't want to digress.
We should do another like a New Year's Eve live show. I think that'd be fun. Whether we have drinks or not, I just think it would be a fun time.
Yeah, no, I'm down, dude. It was a really good time. We definitely have to do something like that again. That was fun.
Absolutely. So. Put in the comments down below. Want a New Year's Eve live show? Just let us know.
Let us know. Here we go.
But moving on to our third and final topic for this Citrus Corner show. And this one is, I think the most juiciest, to be honest with you, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me, and I'll explain why. But again, coming from the GOAT himself, Mr. Scott Gustin, Disney says the debut of The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure theatrical production at Disney's Hollywood Studios, has been moved from fall 2024, which it means it was supposed to actually open up fairly soon, to summer 2025.
That's a big gap. That's a big gap.
Big gap for a stage show, to say the least. Work is expected to begin in the next few weeks to remove the old show marquee. Okay, so I want to dive into this a little bit here. Okay, so we have been talking sometime since D23 about once they made the announcement for the Monsters Inc. area where it could potentially go.
Right.
Well, we got the artwork that it was kind of signed and dated back in 2020 that it looked like it was going into the Muppets area. Disney had gotten some backlash because of announcing after the D23 event that the Cars area is going into Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America. And then people are starting to circulate, oh, they better not put monsters into the Muppets courtyard. Well, then we see the other piece of concept art, which kind of looks like animation courtyard, where the launch bay is, where Disney Junior Live is, and where the Little Mermaid show building is. Now, what I found was interesting that during the part of D23, where they were they came at the two actors and they were kind of like doing like this speed round of all like small projects before they made the announcement for Monsters Inc., before they brought Billy Crystal out. They mentioned the Zootopia show in the Tree of Life. They mentioned the Pirates Bar. They mentioned Test Track. But they didn't mention the Little Mermaid show, which was kind of interesting because it is a smaller kind of project. But now, again, a significant pushback because if Disney decided not to go with the Muppet route and they said, you know what, we can get those office buildings in the backstage area moved, let's put it here. It does put a significant change on operation wise with the Little Mermaid. Now, one can argue and say, oh, but in the next few weeks, the construction is starting to remove the old marquee. But here's the thing, though: if you look at the wording, it just says to remove the old show marquee. It doesn't say replace with the new one.
So your theory is that this show won't ever premiere.
I even had a theory even before this news even broke out, and I get it. They started casting calls, they started rehearsals, what have you. You can kind of already see in the photos that they started along the process, but that still doesn't mean anything. Things can be changed in a click of a dime, and I just don't know if they do. And if they do put the show in what it was meant to be in that show building, what I would then think is they would remove that archway that says the Disney Hollywood Studios sign right before you go into the animation courtyard. That way, Disney Junior and Little Mermaid becomes part of the central hub where Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is, and then right where Star Wars Launch Bay, where the old animation building was, from there on is the entranceway into the backstage area, which would become Monsters, Inc. But you also had a interesting thought process of why that archway was even there in the first place.
I would get rid of the archway. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel it's a little redundant. Because you walk in, okay, you enter Disney's Hollywood Studios, and it's very much like DCA. It's that Pan-Pacific entrance, which I love. It's amazing, right? You walk in there, and that should be the only sign for the park, which should be there, right? Mm-hmm. If you have another sign for the park, it should be maybe close to the front. But this isn't. This is like another archway saying Disney's Hollywood Studios, just randomly back there. And it's like, why? Why do we have two signs? I don't know. I always thought that was a little bit weird. I don't know. And maybe someone who, like, is there a reason for it? I mean, was it more, maybe it's like separating like the movie studio backlotty stuff? Is that what it was doing back in the day? Or what was the reason for having it?
Correctly, I don't know if they actually had Disney MGM Studios, like the logo on top of the arch. It may have just been the arch itself, like you're walking into like a animation studio-esque kind of thing. But I don't know, it does kind of lose translation for me a little bit, especially when they added, the title. Correct me if I'm wrong. Comment down below if the logo and the title of the park was already up there.
I believe it was. I remember the old logo with Mickey with the little take sign and all that. I think it was, but
I wonder if it actually said like the Disney Animation Building or if it actually said the park name.
Yeah. I thought it said the park name, but again, in the comments, correct us if we're wrong.
Right. I think either way you kind of like spin it. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't look right.
It just feels weird to me. Well, why the separation? Well, I don't understand what the point of it is. And I know a lot of fans are going to get upset, like, oh, well, it's been there since the beginning and you can't get rid of it. I know. Change is hard. I get it. But it doesn't make any sense, though. I don't know. Why is it there? It makes no sense, Now,
as far as of what the news dropped today from what we heard at D23, what's your take? Do you think the show is coming anyway? Do you think that they may place it in another location? Do you think it's going to be canceled altogether? Because to me, this strikes kind of interesting because that is a huge gap of a delay. That if this show was supposed to be ready by this fall, literally right now, we're in the fall of 2024, and it's not coming out till summer 2025, what could possibly be the big delay? And for some reason, I think Monsters, Inc. has a play in that.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at almost a year delay because summer could be August, dude. Like
Yeah.
you're only a couple months off of a year, basically, at this point from the delay. Like that's a significant delay. I think there's more to it than just we need more time. Okay, something's going on now. It could be a last minute thing because they did get a lot of backlash from the the diehard fans, right? About the Rivers of America and stuff like that. They got a lot of shit on social media, right? Again, I stand by what I say. I don't think the normies care that much about the Rivers of America. I think the normies are perfectly fine with a Cars thing coming in. They probably would prefer it with their kids. They probably would prefer Cars, okay? But I think they don't want to exactly like piss the diehard fans off either, though. I think Disney doesn't want the bad PR on social media. Right. So they already had that black eye with that, okay? To go in there now and say, hey, guess what? We're getting rid of Muppets too. It's a little too much. It's a little too much. You don't want back-to-back outrage stories, you know what I'm saying? So there's a possibility they're either reevaluating the show altogether or they're adjusting the opening based on construction timelines because now Monsters is moving into the animation courtyard area. But George, is there a way that they can get rid of the animation courtyard, push back into the office buildings right behind it, and keep this mermaid building, or would you have to get rid of this to put Monstropolis in there?
I think if they were to actually get rid of that arch to walk through, I think that they can kind of pull that off because again, if you were to remove the arch, then you have the two show buildings for Disney Junior and the Little Mermaid, and then behind it is the Star Wars launch bay, and again, that would be the entranceway into Monsters Inc. Because then you can move back where all the office buildings and the backstage area that would essentially become the land itself with the big show building for the e-ticket attraction. Right. To me, if they don't remove that arch, that would be very weird to walk through that arch and then have two show buildings and then essentially have to walk into kind of like another arch, so to speak, because they're going to have to create some sort of entranceway that make it look like, oh, I'm transporting into Monstropolis.
Right.
So you're going to have an arch, two show buildings, and then essentially another entrance. That Weird. To me doesn't look right. So I think if they were to have the entranceway of Monsters Inc. where the launch bay starts, you remove that archway that enters into the animation courtyard, and again, it then pushes the optic eye of both those show buildings as part of that central hub where the Grauman's Chinese Theater is, where Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is, and so I think that would then become part of that. And then you have Monsters Inc. kind of separate. That to me would be the only way if they were to keep the Little Mermaid. Now, we didn't hear any news on Disney Junior. They didn't say anything, whether it's staying, whether it's closing. So as of right now, Disney Junior is staying as is. So if they were to get rid of the Little Mermaid, Disney Junior would then have to go because they wouldn't just leave that building, by itself, and it would just be stagnant.
Well, and it says here from Scott Gustin, it says here, Disney, quote, we are taking the next steps and filing permits for an all-new marquee. It's funny, the wording in this stuff. I feel like Josh Giamaro has really listened to fans, and fans are really hesitant now about things actually happening. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I don't remember Disney ever wording things like this in these press releases.
We're taking our time.
Well, yeah, they don't really get into the detail like that. Like when they say here, we're taking the next steps and filing permits for an all-new marquee. You never heard them get into that kind of detail. That's true, yeah. We're filing permits. They never did that. That's a very specific thing. That's telling the fans, you know what? Like what DeMar was saying, shovels in dirt. This is happening. We're not only is it happening, the permits are being filed. I feel like that is a kind of trying to build that confidence with the fandom and that trust with the fandom again. Like, hey, this is an announcement and it's for real because we got permits coming, which is interesting. It's a totally new way of doing it because I think they really did that whole blue sky thing really screwed up the way the fandom looks at a lot of these projects, you know. But it says here, work on the exterior of the building will begin soon in preparation for the premiere of a fully reimagined show in summer 2025. So again, it's going to have exterior work done. I don't know, man. I don't know. I personally, I think the show is going to happen because they're even saying they're filing permits. Okay. But there might be something where they keep the show, but like they squeeze Monstropolis somehow in here.
As I said, the only way that would, well, not saying that would be the only way, but it would look much better if they got rid of that arch. Because again, you're going to have an entranceway into another entranceway. It just seems weird, unless, dare I say it, that it's still up to game with Muppets Courtyard.
It's possible. I mean, Disney might.
I know Disney might not just be announcing it right now. You know, kind of let the air, you know, kind of set in because of the Tom Sawyer and Rivers of America.
Well, and how much do you placate to the diehard fans? And this is a serious question. And I know, look, we're diehard fans. Okay, I'm not going to pretend like we're not. We are.
But we're a small percentage.
We're a small percentage, and we have to have, as diehard fans, we have to have a little bit of self-awareness here and understand that we are not the normal populace. We are not the general public. Okay, so should Disney be obsessed and so super worried about what the diehard fans are going to say on Twitter? I don't know. Like, if Disney has a good idea and it works better in the Muppet area and the diehard fans throw a fit for a week and a half, I mean, does it matter? At the end of the day, does it matter? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. And Disney might be looking at that going, well, it actually works better in that spot. And if the diehard fans are going to be mad for a week, they'll be mad for a week. And it'll be, whatever. But I don't know I don't know. Disney shouldn't look, I'm not saying Disney should just crap all over diehard fans. I'm not saying that. I'm a diehard fan. George is. I'm not saying that. But I don't know if it's good business and even good creative sense to get so married and marred down in what the diehards are going to be upset about. Sometimes you just got to make the call. Like I said before, there were a lot of diehard fans who were upset with Tower of Terror turning into Mission Breakout. And that turned out really, really well. I'm not saying that everything's going to be like that, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes the diehard fans are really emotional about stuff, and sometimes kind of honestly a little closed-minded about change. So if Disney has a good idea and a good way to fit this into this park, and it means getting rid of Muppets, as sad as that is, I love the Muppets too. It's a beautiful franchise. But what do you want? You want what works best for the park? Or do you want them to shoehorn it somewhere else where it doesn't work as well just to save Muppets, right? I mean, we have to make the decision here. And should Disney get super invested in what the diehard fans are going to think? I don't know, man. The normies are the ones you really want to speak to. The normies are the ones who are the bulk of the audience at the end of the day. So we'll see. Now, I will say this. If they do get rid of Muppets, because I am a huge Jim Henson guy, I love his brilliance. I love his mind. I love his legacy. I understand Muppets' vision is the last work of Jim Henson. If they get rid of the Muppet area in Hollywood Studios, Disney has to find a way that show lives on as Jim Henson's last work. Whether that be through like a Jim Henson museum or whether that be through some other means, I don't know. That show has to live on somewhere else as his last work. So you have to respect the man and his legacy and the work, but at the same time, you also have to make Hollywood Studios a better park, and you can't let it live in the past forever. Eventually, we're going to have to address Muppets, you guys. You can't keep the show from 30 years ago forever. Eventually, it's going to have to go. Whether it's now or whether it's 20 years from now, eventually it's going to have to go.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, I love Muppet Vision 3D. I love the Muppet Courtyard. I just love the Muppets in general. Now, again, that is hypothetically if Disney decides to put Monsters, Inc. in the Muppet area. Now,
we don't know.
What's that?
No, we don't know. We don't even know if that's where they want to go. Yeah.
And what kind of saves it is if you kind of look at the area surrounding the Muppet Courtyard, it seems like they would be kind of squeezing that in kind of tightly. And I don't mean that in a good way. But
Well,
But
they do have that like parking lot. That's the only thing though that makes me think like because isn't there like a
if they
parking
run
lot?
it into the park, like take a piece of the parking lot out.
Yeah, because when I was looking at the maps after that show we did about Muppets a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, but man, there's that parking lot right there.
Now, I do remember again at D23, Demaro said work starts on Monsters Inc. in 2025. Now, I believe I'd have to go back and watch it. I thought he said early 2025, but I mean that could be anywhere from January to April.
Pretty
That could be
much.
anywhere. But I think it's funny that the work starts in 2025 and the show gets pushed back to summer of 2025, the same time when they would be starting construction on Monsters, and that is an area that they were considering. So I don't know if Disney is trying to kind of like beat around the bush a little bit before making the initial assumption or reaction to say, "Oh, I wonder if we should keep this or not." I don't know. It
I don't
just
either.
it's the timing for everything. Summer 2025, early 2025 for the construction of Monsters. Like, what does that necessarily mean? It's like we're getting like these little hidden Easter eggs without a full answer as where these things are going.
I know it drives me nuts. This whole Monstropolis thing is. It frustrates me that I don't know where it is. The Pandora thing is driving me absolutely nuts with DCA.
Yeah.
I just want to know where you're putting this stuff.
I feel like Disney is like just sitting back with like a box of like cookies or chips, just like laughing at us, like, look at these fools, like just going like trying to figure all this shit out. We know, sort of thing.
I know. At the end of the day, and I stand by this, Disney needs to do what they feel is best for these parks.
Yeah.
And they can't get too mentally married to making the diehard fans happy, because the diehard fans are always, I've been in this community a long time. I always say that, but it's true. I've been in this community 20 plus years. Okay. I'm telling you right now, the fans complain and they will always complain. I remember being in the lead up to Small World Holiday. Now, mind you, Small World Holiday is one of the most beloved theme park, what would you call it? Things. Well, yeah, theme park entertainment, whatever you want to call it, overlays. It's one of the most beloved things that Disney has ever done is Small World Holiday, right? It's gorgeous. It's art. It really is. The lead up to that, okay, in the message boards back in the day was, oh my God, this is going to look like someone's front yard. How trashy is this thing going to look? It's going to look like someone's front yard. Shame on Disney. Bad show. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Literally, that was the lead up to Small World Holiday. And look how it turned out. And that's what I'm saying. You can't get too married to what the diehards want, because the diehards a lot of times aren't always right. And I'm a diehard. And I'm going to admit it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we don't see the forest through the trees a lot of times, and we don't have an open mind. Just have a little bit of self-awareness. It is what it is, So I think Disney needs to do what's best for these parks. And if it means making the diehards mad for a week or something, then that's what it is. I'm sorry to say it.
Now, do you think, now this is probably out of reach with this, but do you think Disney ever considered the Star Cruiser area? Or do you think they would save that more for like a future like Galaxy's Edge expansion?
That's interesting. Is that close enough? Because I know you had to take the van that was like a transport, whatever, to that hotel. Right. Is it close enough where they can just connect it to the park? How far is it from the...
I mean, it may be a little bit of a walkway, but I mean, all the Disney parks sort of kind of have like a long extended walkway. I mean, if they were decide to put Monsters like as the connection beyond Galaxy's Edge, but then if they do that, then it cuts off any kind of future expansion for Galaxy's Edge, minus the expansion pad that they already have. Right. That was supposed to be for the third attraction and the restaurant. They still have that for Galaxy's Edge. But as far as the Star Cruiser area goes, if there was enough closeness between there and the park, that it wouldn't be like a long extension like out on Lookout Key.
Yeah.
From
Well,
the
I mean,
ship island. But
that would be kind of cool because then you don't really replace anything in the park. You can keep Muppets, you can keep all of it, and you can, just have an extension. I mean, personally, I wish that, because here's the thing too with Hollywood studios, there are areas that need to be addressed too.
yeah,
So, like for me, if it's possible, I would replace the animation courtyard because that's a problem area. That's like Hollywood Land over at DCA. It's an area that needs to be addressed eventually. So
right.
you have a great property, you have a great idea for a land. Okay, let's kill two birds with one stone and put it there. We get rid of a weak area and we add something cool and new. So I like the idea of putting Monstropolis over there in the Star Cruiser, but then it's kind of like the DCA problem with Hollywood Land is that, but you still have Animation Courtyard sitting there being an eyesore.
That's true.
I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting, but
as our friend Drew the Disney dude said, we still have another
5 years
of the decade that anything else can go in there, like with the Incredibles 3, you have Zootopia 2, you have Moana 2 coming out, which I still think Moana would fit much better in Magic Kingdom.
Adventureland for sure. Yeah,
Adventureland. But I could definitely see Incredibles or Zootopia going into the animation courtyard if they were to utilize Monsters Inc. in the Star Cruise area or Muppets.
Yeah, Zootopia would be a great franchise for that park.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know, but I will say this, regardless of what happens with Monstropolis, the Muppets area is going to have to go eventually, you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very outdated show, and it looks like it. It looks outdated. Let's be honest. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but if they do get rid of it, and eventually they will, they should figure a way to continue the last piece of work from Jim Henson somewhere else. Like I said, museum or something. There's actually a lot of sad, like, Muppet news lately. I don't know. The Jim Henson Studios, the physical building is being sold off. There was a rumor that it actually might be sold off to the Church of Scientology, which is like, but that turned out to be false, thank God. But just sad stuff all around, But
do you think that's a sign? Because a lot of stuff is getting sold off, and could that potentially mean that, being that the actual Jim Henson lot may be going completely away, removing Muppets in the parks? I mean, do you think Disney is kind of seeing this as, unfortunately, a dying art form, in where it's like they can't really go anywhere with it?
It's a dying IP.
Not art form, IP. Excuse me.
Yeah, it kind of. I look at.
Well, really, honestly, even using puppetry is kind of like a dying art form, because really in today's time with the TikTokers and the YouTubers and everything, you look at puppets. Unfortunately, we love it because we grew up with that. But a child today, they're going to look at that and say, "What is this?"
They're not like, people love the Muppets, but they're not like super hot. For as IP goes.
Yeah.
They're just not. They're not at their peak. That's for sure. So yeah, I mean, they're struggling. Like you said, they're selling the physical building, not the company, but the physical building. I don't know, man. It's sad to watch because I'm older, and so I did grow up with a lot of the Muppet stuff. I think it's a great franchise. It really, really is. But the kids nowadays, they're not really into it.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. But fascinating topics, fascinating discussion. Always a good time talking to you, bro. And so glad to be back doing a Citrus Corner. I know it's been a while. My last one, I believe, was my 3-part solo Citrus Corners with the Disney Destiny. So it's good to be back in the captain's chair, if you will. But
when you're in the captain's chair, you got to blow the horn.
Awesome. Never gets old. But everyone, we want to thank you for joining us today. Comment down below on everything we discussed. The refurbishment on Big Thunder, the closures of Chester and Hester's Dino-Rama, and essentially the whole entire Dinoland USA going away for Tropical Americas. Where do you think Monsters Inc. is going to go? Where do you see the fate of the Little Mermaid show? OG getting drunk. You could pretty much comment down below on anything we discussed today. And OG, I want to thank you, bro, for joining us. Always a good time.
Yeah.
And for all of you out there, as I say in the Disney Italiano fashion, stay safe, stay healthy, stay Disney. Italiano out.
Should we have the Queen take us out today?
Yes, let's shall.
The Queen, here she is. Let's go.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.